Advent is one of my favourite seasons in the whole church calendar. It's all about preparing and looking forwards, both looking forwards to Christmas and to Christ's return. And I've always celebrated Advent in different ways when we were kids and growing up, and as an adult I've continued to celebrate in lots of different ways. But this year I will have a 9 turning 10-month-old baby daughter to celebrate with us. So as we're coming up to Advent, as you can see from the Christmas decorations, I wanted to share a couple of different ways that we can celebrate Advent as a family. So our first idea is to make an Advent wreath. Now you may have seen an Advent wreath at your church, depending on what kind of church you go to. I don't know how many different denominations and traditions do this, but in our church this is something we do every Advent, and it helps us to count down to Christmas for the 4 Sundays before Christmas. So if you wanted to make your own, you just need some foliage, some kind of greenery to go in a circle to make a wreath. And then you have 5 candles, 4 around the circle and then 1 in the middle. And these mean slightly different things in different traditions, and at the church that I go to, these represent patriarchs, prophets, John the Baptist, Mary, and then the middle one being Jesus for Christmas Day. And the idea is that you light 1 candle each Sunday. So on Advent Sunday, 4 Sundays before Christmas, you light the first one, and then on the second Sunday you'd light 2, and so on. And I think doing this at home with your family could be a really fun way of exploring Advent and counting down the weeks to Christmas. Each week you could explore what that different candle means and what it represents, and just talk about it. And I think this can be a really interesting way of looking back at church history and also thinking about Christmas and the Christmas story and everything that led to Jesus' birth, but also looking forwards to Jesus' return as well. And by making the wreath, you have that central thing to come back to and see visually in front of you to reflect on. Plus, I think they'll be really fun to make. Our next idea is to go to Christmas services. Now in most churches there will be lots of different services for you to go to in the run up to Christmas. Maybe you have a Christingle service, or you have a carol service, or you might have a midnight mass on the midnight before Christmas. And I think these are all wonderful opportunities for you to celebrate Advent with your wider church family. And for me, I think this is something that's important, so that my daughter Georgia knows that this isn't something that just we do, this is something we do in community. Christmas and Advent is something that we celebrate together. And as well as just going along to services, I think it's a really good opportunity to serve together, to get involved in different services and offer to help in different ways or take part in the services, whether that's reading a Bible reading, whether that's leading prayers, whether that's getting involved in acting out the nativity if that's something that your church does. There's so many different ways that you can serve in your church during Christmas and really be a blessing to all those people who come to those services. Plus, maybe your church has other ways that you can bless your community at Christmas and really reach out to people who maybe don't come into your services but are in your community. See what ways that your church has for you to get involved and do that together as a family. I think this is a really great way to make Christmas not just about what we receive, but also about how we give and bless other people. Our next idea is to read the Christmas story together. And this might sound quite simple and basic, but Advent can be really busy. If you've got kids in school, there's probably lots of school events. There's lots of church events. You've got to get everything ready, get all your presents, wrap all your presents. Maybe you've got to prepare the food ready for Christmas if you're hosting. Maybe you have lots of family to go and visit. It can become a really busy and hectic time. So it's really important that we take the time and make the time to read the Christmas story together and remember what it is that we're celebrating. And I think it's really important that we don't just turn to storybooks about Christmas and about the Nativity, but we turn to scripture and read that together and remind ourselves of what the Bible actually says about Christmas, because it's such a wonderful story in the Bible. And I also think that helps to remind us that this Christmas story is part of this much bigger story, the whole Old Testament leading up to Jesus' birth, and everything that happens after Jesus is born as well. Our next idea is to do a reverse Advent calendar. Now you may have a normal Advent calendar where you open a door or a pocket each day and you get a treat or something in your Advent calendar. And these are really great ways to count down to Christmas, make it really exciting, get to open something each day. But the idea of a reverse Advent calendar is instead of you getting something, you get to give something back. You find a way each day of blessing other people. And there are a couple of different ways that you could do this. One example could be having a basket, and each day you put an item of food in that basket. And then, by the time it gets to Christmas Day, you have a basket full of food that you can donate to your local food bank. Or perhaps you set yourself the challenge that you have to do one act of kindness each day of Advent. And at the end of the day, perhaps you check in together as a family and ask each person what their act of kindness was that day. Or perhaps you want to set yourself 24 different challenges, all about blessing other people and giving back. And each day you pick out one of those challenges and have to complete that during that day. I'd love to hear down in the comments if you do anything like this. How do you give back to other people during Advent? Do you do any kind of reverse Advent calendar? And what does that look like for you? And our next idea is to pray together. Advent is a great time for preparing ourselves and focusing on God. And part of doing this is to pray. You could find or write your own special prayer for Advent and pray it each day of Advent as part of your normal prayer routine. Or perhaps if you have kind of a daily habit or tradition of sitting down and opening your Advent calendars together, maybe set aside some time then for prayer as well as opening your Advent calendars. Or perhaps you could follow a prayer diary or a prayer challenge where you're given something different to pray about each day to guide you in your prayers. I've got an example of this that I made a few years ago, which I will link down in the description if you'd like to use that. And here on this channel, we will also be sharing a prayer reflection video each Wednesday of Advent. And hopefully these will be a great way for you to take the time to reflect and pray over different topics throughout Advent as we prepare for Christmas. So how are you going to celebrate Advent this year? We'd love to know your plans down in the comments. And if you found these ideas helpful, do give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos from me and Arnold. Here on this channel, we want to encourage Christian families to pray creatively and confidently. If you'd like to find a creative way of exploring the Christmas story together with your family, do check out this video right here. But for now, we will see you next Saturday for a new video. Bye!